I don't know of any evidence that Martin Luther King Jr. read Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I looked. It's funny, I ran across a sermon that King preached, I forget the year, called Christ the Center of Our Faith. And it corresponds with the title of a set of lectures that Bonhoeffer gave in 1933 called Christ the Center. We don't have the actual manuscript from Bonhoeffer of Christ the Center. We have a bunch of student notes, and they turned the student notes into a book that you can get. But most recently, the student notes have been incorporated into volume 12 of the Dietrich Bonhoeffer Works English edition, and they're very good. It's his Christology, stuff that he poured himself into. This was after he came back, and it's about the time of the church struggle. Poured himself into it at that time. That's the closest correspondence, is the title of those. But there are a lot of resonances. Besides the creepy stuff, that Bonhoeffer was lynched. He was hanged to death. Flossenburg concentration camp, April 9th, 1945. 39 years old. I think I said this morning. King was shot to death April 4th of his 39th year of life. Really, I mean, that's eerie, that's weird. Within 5 days of each other in their 39th year of life. King, deeply influenced by Reinhold Niebuhr and Gandhi. Bonhoeffer, friends with and influenced by Reinhold Niebuhr, and was lined up to go to, Gandhi had accepted him into his ashram in India prior to, just before Bonhoeffer accepted the call to be the leader of that illegal seminary. It was Zingst first and then to Finkenwalde. Bonhoeffer defined person socially. He described I-thou relationship rather than an I-it. King described people socially. I-thou, from Martin Buber. Bonhoeffer wasn't reading Buber, which is interesting. But he came up with the same interpretation of personhood, which is really important for the ethical ramifications of encountering other human beings, not as objects or as things, but there is no such thing as a person apart from a social being, not just a solitary individual, but we are made for community, social encounters. So, I mean, it's a number of things like that, and also, what's also interesting, is that Bonhoeffer, when he came back from his fellowship in America, he was working with people in poverty. He was working with people in poverty in Harlem during the Great Depression as well. And he also sought to be a pastor in the slums of Berlin. His family, by the way, was really, he was a wealthy guy. Bonhoeffer was a wealthy man, his family was. But he took a pastorate, or was seeking to be a pastor in the slums of Berlin. There's some, I got a number of stories about some of his interactions over there, but it was just fascinating where he was seeking to be pastor. He didn't get the pastorate that he wanted, and then the Aryan clause was passed, and the Nazis assumed power, and he decided that he could not be a pastor in this Prussian church, he said, because they're not paying attention to the Jewish problem.